Hey there, welcome to Prog Monster. My name's Murph and I'm a host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock, hard rock, heavy metal, and other rock genre type music. Anyways, tonight it's the series that we've been doing, which is rock greats who thrilled us but have since passed on. And this is episode 13 from 1976. Two pretty interesting people tonight, I believe, and both, I think, contributed a fair amount to their specific type of music. Anyways, the first one is Howlin Wolf, or Chester Arthur Burnett, and the second one is Tommy Bolin, guitarist, most notable for Deep Purple. Okay, so anyways, we're going to start with Howlin Wolf because he died first. Anyways, he was born June the 10th, 1910, in White Station, Mississippi, and he died January the 10th, 1976, in Hines, Illinois. He actually died from complications during surgery from kidney problems. Anyways, the music that he's known for is blues and electric blues. His instrument was vocals, guitar, and he did play harmonica as well, which is fairly standard with the blues, I think. And he was active from the 1930s all the way up to 1976. So anyways, he was named after the first president of the can't even read my own handwriting. The 21st president of the 21st president of the United States, let's get this right, Chester A. Arthur. He sang with his mom, Gertrude Jones, in the choir after she had separated and left his father and moved away. But his upbringing was a bit of a violent thing, pretty violent. His mom kicked him out when he was young, and he went to live with his uncle, who worked him hard, almost like a slave, I would think. He had bought a new pair of shoes, and one of the pigs had messed them up a bit, and he got very angry and attacked the pig, and this didn't sit well with his uncle, so he kicked him out basically, and he ran off, apparently walking 85 miles to his father's house, and stayed with his father and his father's parents. His father and his father's family were a lot easier on him, and so he stayed there. During his time with them, he was discovered by a musician who introduced him to Charlie Patton, and Charlie Patton taught him how to play the guitar. That's where he learned how to play his guitar. During the 1940s, he was inducted into the Army, but he didn't really fit well in the Army, and that's not unusual for people with anger issues. Anyways, they discharged him in 1943. In 1951, he was in the blues circuit, just playing locally, and was discovered by Ike Turner, who brought him to basically work on some songs with Sam Phillips, and they recorded several songs on Sam Phillips's album. He had, throughout the 50s, he had a kind of an intense competition with Muddy Waters, and a lot of the stuff that he and I'm going to say Muddy Waters as well, that they released was actually also redone by a lot of American and British rock bands in the 60s. And, this is his major influence. A lot of these especially the British bands in the 1960s, were heavily influenced by black artists who basically were doing blues and rhythm and blues. This is nothing new. A lot of people already know this. And a lot of his hits became staples with these bands. So anyways, he died in 1976, having left a legacy. He's been inducted to several types of halls of fame but he's also been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as well, as some of his songs have also been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So that's pretty much it for Howlin Wolf. Definitely one of the top blues artists of his time period, and one of the most notable names and people that people know of who play blues. I've been listening to not so much of his stuff, or even Muddy Waters, who I have stuff of his as well, but I've been listening to a lot of John Lee Hooker, who I quite enjoy as well. So, a lot of these band people put out some pretty decent music. It's not really rock, but I have a little bit of a fetish for the blues. Sometimes I like to listen to it quite a bit. Anyways, that's it for Howlin Wolf. Now we're going to talk about Tommy Bolin, who I probably know a little bit more about just because he falls more closely to the type of music that I generally like. I tend to favor hard rock as opposed to heavy metal. Progressive rock is my choice of music, but given a choice between hard rock and heavy metal, I tend to prefer hard rock, and it's quite evident in some of the music I listen to. Okay, so now we're going to talk about, sorry about that, and that. Well, anyways, we're going to talk somewhat now about Tommy Bolin. Tommy Bolin was born August 1st, 1951 in Sioux City, Iowa, and he died December 4th, 1976 in Miami, Florida, basically of a heroin overdose. His music, he had several music, and not all of them were what you would think. Like he played hard rock, he played heavy metal, but he also liked jazz fusion, blues rock, funk, and funk rock. Of course, he's a guitar player. I think he did do some vocals on some of his solo work as well. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't read anything about that. He was active from 1966 to 76, so a fairly short career, as he died at the age of 25. Okay, so let's just talk about some of his stuff. Okay, I'm going to give you a bit of a band history here of him. He played in several bands, just to give you an idea of how he began to progress. He was part of a band called Miserless, which eventually turned into Denny and the Triumphs. Now, I don't want to make it sound like the Miserless band became Denny and the Triumphs. That's not what happened. He was in a band called Miserless, and he moved on to Denny and the Triumphs. At age 13, he was in this band in 1964. Band featured Dave Stokes on vocals, Brad Miller, guitar and vocals, Bolin lead guitars, lead guitar at age 13 already. Steve Breidenborg, who played organ and vocals as well. Denny Foot, bass, who was obviously Denny, and he was the Denny and the Triumphs. And Brad Larrick on drums. So after a bit of being together, this band, Denny left the band and was replaced by George Larrist Jr., who is Brad's, the drummer's brother. At that point, they changed the name to A Patch of Blue. They released a live album called A Patch of Blue. And then he went on to, after that band, he went on to American Standard, who then became Ethereal Zephyr. In 1972, he formed a jazz fusion rock band called Energy. He took a year off after that to write, and wrote about 100 songs during that time period. And then he eventually replaced Dominic Triano, who had already replaced Joe Walsh in the James Gang in 1973. He worked on Billy Goldham's solo between his two albums that he did with the James Gang. So he did the one James Gang album, worked on this solo with Billy Gorham, and then did the other James Gang album. And Billy Gorham is from, or Gobhams. I'm not sure exactly how they say his name. From the Mahavishnu Orchestra. Sorry, these names. The album was called Spectrum. Okay, so this album came to the notice of John Lord, who said that the guitars were off the charts on this album. And then after that, he performed with members of several jazz bands, and then he started work on a solo album. Before that, he did 6 solo tracks, the guitar solos, for a Canadian band called Moxie. I wrote this one first. I'm just going to change over to here so that I can... his first solo album included work from session players like David Foster, David Sanborn, Jan Hammer, Stanley Sheldon, Jeff Porcaro, I think of Toto, that's who I think I know that's where he's from, Phil Collins, everybody knows him, and Glenn Hughes, who did not take any credits on this album because of contractual issues. Okay, so he then he replaced Richie Blackmore in Purple as he got the job during a 4-hour jam session with the band. David Coverdale had heard his stuff off of Spectrum and invited him to jam with the band, and he got the job almost immediately. They liked his work quite a bit. And then they put an album out called, they went to Germany almost immediately after that and recorded an album called Come Taste the Band. And he co-wrote 7 of the 9 tracks on that album. So he was quite involved with Deep Purple, at least on the album that he was on. The problem that had occurred, so far as I can understand, is that whenever they were touring, a lot of the fans who watched them wanted him to kind of perform the Richie Blackmore guitar solos for Deep Purple on the older stuff. And he's a very different sounding guitarist than Richie Blackmore, so it didn't jive too well with a lot of their fans. And then he had an issue where he actually fell asleep and he was on his arm for 8 hours and he could barely play anything. So, and that unfortunately was the time when they recorded the live album, and Deep Purple didn't want to release this album, but the record label actually released it in Japan, and then of course it made its way into Britain and North America. So I think later they did do some recordings that were changed to enhance his guitar ability on them, and I think that they were much better off with that than they were with this album that they put out. Anyways, he admits to being, well, after his Deep Purple stint, he went and did another solo. He went solo again, and was doing his solo career with various musicians. And then he also admitted at that point in time that he was self-taught guitar player. He taught himself play by ear. Like he could, that's really good. If you can do that by ear, that's really good. And then he had an interview one night where, at the end of the interview, the person interviewing him said, take care of yourself. And he said, I always take care of myself. I'll be here for a very long time. And ironically, he died that night of a heroin overdose. But he was quite a good guitar player. I've heard some of his stuff. He's not really, to me, he didn't, I don't know if he fit in or he didn't fit in. He just doesn't sound like Richie Blackmore to me. And it's a different sound with him playing guitar with Deep Purple than it is with Richie Blackmore, who I quite like. So I don't think anything less of him. I think he's still a really good guitar player. But, there's just certain sounds that you expect from certain bands, and if you don't get them, it really doesn't matter who's playing it. They just don't fit in, right? And that's just the way I feel about it. Anyways, there you have it. Tommy Bolin died far too young. Probably could have done a lot of really good stuff he had. He wasn't the type of guy that stayed too long with groups, but he was still growing, so maybe his solo career would have been better. Who knows what he would have done in the future. He definitely was a great guitar player, I think. Anyways, there you have it. Tommy Bolin and Howlin Wolf for today's episode. So tomorrow is an off day, but Friday tomorrow this episode will release in the morning at 9 a.m. That's what I was trying to say. I don't know why I said the other thing. And then we'll have another one on Saturday. The Saturday one generally should come out at 9 a.m., but sometimes Friday nights are quite busy and I don't get a chance to record it, so I have to do it in the morning on Saturday, so sometimes it comes out a little later. I had that problem the last couple weekends, so if you're expecting it at 9 and it doesn't come right away, just bear with me. It'll eventually be there before noon, hopefully. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode. This is the 13th. I got lots more to go. Moving on into the mid-70s now. In 1977, we have some fairly notable people this next year. The legend of rock, Elvis Presley, and Ronnie Van Zant. I think I got the right Ron. Yeah, Ronnie Van Zant of Leonard Skinner. These will be among the first two musicians who I know quite a bit about their music. I've listened to quite a bit of their stuff. So it'll be nice more to talk about the music than the death part. Sometimes that's, as fun as it is to learn about these guys, it sometimes feels like I'm not really telling you much about the music because I haven't listened to a lot of their stuff. I've listened to some bits and pieces here of these artists, but it's all a discovery for me. So I just, I've listened to a fair bit of Elvis Presley over the years, and I've listened to even more Leonard Skinner. So it'll be nice to have that refreshing kind of connection with these next two artists tomorrow, or on Saturday. And there you have it. So if you like the video we did tonight, please like and subscribe. There'll be more coming your way. Also, Friday night we're going to be doing a live. I have a live DVD that I really enjoy quite a bit. I wanted to hold off on it just a bit because I've already done something by this band in my Friday night live experience. But I've decided that based on this is a really good one. It's the Who live at Kilburn. Also on this DVD, I also have a 1969 concert that they did, which is really good as well. So you get both these concerts on this DVD. Excellent. The big thing about live at Kilburn is it's the one where Pete Townsend does that famous jump through the air and lands on his knees at the same time that Keith Moon is wrecking his drums and Roger Daltrey's giving out that hallowed scream that he's famous for. So anyways, we'll be talking about that on Friday night. A couple of really good albums. I'm looking forward to doing these, and I hope to see you there. Anyways, I hope you have a good day and a good evening wherever you may be. And we will see you on Friday Night Live and Saturday morning for the next installment of this episode. So have a good night. Frog Monster out.